Good evening to everybody, and sorry that there isn't comfortable seating space for everybody. Happy to have everybody here, Rav Horowitz, Rav Bernstein, and all of you. My original idea was just as a way of really getting together with the Talmudim of the Matmonim. It's such a strange shiur because we meet every morning. We don't have time to hang out at all. We meet, it's a rush, it's 20 minutes, and hardly even finished, and the Shliach Tzibur is already champing at the bit to start davening, and everybody's in a rush. And we have these hundreds of people who are around the world who Talmidim, and we don't have a chance to speak to them. We've got the people who I see every single morning, and we don't have a chance to hang out. So I thought, let's use this opportunity to get together, to spend a little bit of time together. For me also just to thank you all, those of you who are there every single morning. I've said it in the shiur, I've said it many times, and I'll say it again. You can't imagine how much of a part you play in the final product. I get to a certain point in preparation, but firstly, even when I'm preparing, it's you who are in my mind. It's very difficult to have in my mind people who are listening online who I don't know, I haven't seen. The people who are in my mind when I'm learning and preparing the shiur are you, who are there every morning. And your being there and your active engagement and attentive listening and participation, all of that brings out a lot of the energy of the shiur from which all the hundreds of people who listen benefit. So I really am grateful to you that you could also rely on the recording. You could stay at home, get up a little later and listen to the recording later on at your leisure, but you don't. You're there every morning, and you share in the production of the Matmon. You share in the development of the Matmon. It develops in the shiur. What I finish with at the end of the shiur at 7 o'clock in the morning is not the same as I'd prepared by the time I come to the shiur at 6:30. Thank you also to the people who are supporters of the Matmon. I don't think that people realize that these things don't just happen. To get the Matmon recorded, David here does a wonderful job every single morning making sure that it's recorded. But then there's a lot of professional stuff that goes on in terms of its editing, improving the quality of the sound, getting it up online on the various different platforms that it appears. There's an enormous amount of work behind the scenes that goes on after the shiur is given. We've built a website, as some of you know, matmonim.org, where we have probably 600 or 700 shiurim already transcribed. That needs a team of people transcribing them, a team of Talmidei Chachomim who understand Hebrew, who understand English, and who understand who can learn, are Talmidei Chachomim. Some of them are men, some of them are women, amazing men and women who love the shiur, and they're professionals. They're busy transcribing it. We'll hopefully have them all transcribed. They then need to be laid out. They need to be tagged so that they can be indexed. There's a fortune of professional work that goes in, and the people who support this initiative, you know who you are, but we need more people. We need a lot of people to support. There's a lot that we want to do, we could be doing, and there are opportunities, whether it's to sponsor a Masechta, that somebody takes on a complete Masechta that gets put online in the memory of somebody or in honor of somebody, probably to publish it as a sefer. There's no reason why it shouldn't be put together as a sefer afterwards. It will need a lot of editing work, and all of these things, a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money. And people sometimes sit and just take it for granted that the shiur every morning just comes and it's just there and they just listen to it. And that's wonderful, but you should know it takes a lot of effort, a lot of resources, and any support we can get from you who are here this evening or people around the world, we appreciate enormously. It's amazing how we're already coming to the end of Bava Batra. We've worked our way through a lot of Moed, Noshim, Nezikin. It's amazing how much we've covered. There are about 1,000 shiurim already online, which are amazing. And important, I think, for you to appreciate that what I'm trying to do with the Matmon, I'm trying to do many different things, but one of them is actually record 70 years of learning and life experience and business experience in one place. And there's no better place than the Gemara to record it, because it all links into the Gemara. Everything that I've done in my life links into the Gemara. So to be able to take those 70 years of learning and life experience and have them recorded and hopefully written out, that's part of what the Matmonim is. In addition to that is a method of learning, so that people develop a method of learning and understand. When I started, one of my intentions was so that people who are learning the Daf Yomi should realize that the Daf Yomi is not learning. The Daf Yomi is a wonderful social movement of Jews getting together to connect with the Torah, to learn the Torah, to study, to be engaged in the Torah. It's a wonderful, wonderful movement, but it's not limud Torah. That's not learning Torah. There's no way you can go through a daf in a day. It's not, even if you spend the entire day on the daf, you're not going to do it. So one has to know that, and part of the purpose of the Matmonim was to demonstrate by taking just one line, 2 lines of the Gemara, and digging into that, and just a little bit of it. How much can one do in a 20-minute shiur to see the nuances and the context in the Rishonim and in the Acharonim, and from that to extrapolate a life principle that can be used. It's not a vort on the daf. It's extrapolated out of the daf. How you develop from the Gemara, through the Rishonim, through the Acharonim, how you develop an idea that you can walk out of shul every morning and put into practice. In your business, you can put it into practice in your life. I do that. I teach it to my clients the same day. It's just so powerful and so illuminating that I just want people to appreciate what Talmud is, what the Gemara is, and how important it is. Matmonim that we come to now, which is the bottom of Daf Kuf Kaf and the beginning of Daf Kuf Kaf Aleph, we have, and it links to where we are at the moment. It's interesting how often that happens, isn't it? That the Daf Yomi links to what's going on in life. It's strange. Tanya, we learned in a brayso, Vayedaber Moshe et Moadei Hashem al Bnei Yisrael. The kiddush that we made on Yom Tov morning, and that we'll make again on Wednesday and on Thursday and in Chutz La'aretz on Friday. Vayedaber Moshe es Moadei Hashem al Bnei Yisrael. Moshe spoke the Yom Tovs, the holidays of God to Bnei Yisrael. Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, Moadei Hashem ne'emru, Shabbat Bereshit lo ne'emra. That parsha, that piece of Chumash that talks about the holidays of the year, Sukkot, as we have now, and Shmini Atzeret, and Pesach, and Shavuot, are all listed there, but not Shabbos. Rabbi Yossi bar Natan Gamir la laha matnita. Rabbi Yossi bar Natan learned this brayso, what we've just learned, he studied it nearly 2,000 years ago. Rabbi Yossi bar Nason was studying that brayso. Now, we've just studied the brayso. I'm quite sure that if I put this away now and we had a l'chaim and went home, everybody would be quite happy. But Rabbi Yossi bar Nason was not. He learnt it v'lo yada leile pirusho, and he couldn't understand it. And that really bothered him. He couldn't understand it. What does the brayso mean? Azal Batre de Rav Sheshes, the master of braysos was Rav Sheshes. He understood braysos. So braysos are those Mishnaic materials that weren't included in the Mishnah itself. He went to look for Rav Sheshes in Nahardo v'lo Ashkeche. He went to Nahardo and he looked at all the Basei Medrash and he went everywhere to try and find Rav Sheshes. He couldn't find Rav Sheshes. Azal Batre le Mechoza. He went to Mechoza to explain the brayso which we've just learnt. And we were ready to move on already, to read the next line. It didn't bother us. That's why I say, learning is not just going through a daf. He stopped there. He didn't finish the daf. He stopped there, and he got into his car, and he drove all the way to Nahardo. And he searched for Rav Sheshes. And he couldn't find Rav Sheshes. So he got back into his car, and he went to Mechoza. And there he found Rav Sheshes. Amalei Rav Sheshes taught him, Ma moed Hashem ne'emru, Shabbat Bereshit lo ne'emru. What does it mean? Amalei, he said, Moadei Hashem tzrichin kiddush beit din, Shabbat Bereshit eina tzricha kiddush beit din. Yom Tov needs the Beis Din to declare it. And the way it was declared, as the Rashbam explained, is through Kiddush HaChodesh. The Beis Din used to decide when Rosh Chodesh was. The Beis Din used to decide when it was a leap year and when it wasn't, which means the Beis Din decided what day would be Sukkot, what day would be Shmini Atzeret, what day would be Rosh Hashanah, what day would be Yom Kippur. They decided the day. Each year, each month, they were deciding the day. But not so with Shabbat Bereshit. As the Rashbam explained, Shabbat Bereshit, nobody decides the day. From the time the world was created, every seventh day was Shabbos. Beis Din doesn't have to do anything. Humankind is not involved in creating Shabbos. Shabbos is a part of nature. It's built into nature. It's programmed into the world. We do nothing about it. Yom Tov is not programmed in. Yom Tov we have to activate. Each year, each month, we have to activate the calendar so that Yom Tov falls on a particular day. So Yom Tov is a partnership between man and God, and Shabbos is God alone. Because it's interesting. Shabbos celebrates what God didn't do. Isn't that right? Shabbos is Vayanach b'yom hashvi. God rested on the seventh day. Shabbos is a day on which God did nothing. Yom Tov is a day on which God did something. On Pesach, He took us out of Mitzrayim. On Shavuos, He gave us the Torah. On Sukkot, He kept us in these Sukkot with the Ananei HaKoved. Each Yom Tov is a celebration of something Hashem did for us, and Shabbos is the celebration of a time that God stood back and did nothing at all. And so the way we Mekayim Shabbos, how do we keep Shabbos, is by the things we don't do. The Isur Melachot, we're not allowed to do things on Shabbos. The way we keep Yom Tov is through an active avodah, through Simcha. So v'samachta b'chagecha atov anecha, we're told, particularly with Sukkot, the importance of enjoy, have joy on Yom Tov. It doesn't say that by Shabbos. Shabbos is oneg, it's a different thing, it's passive. But Simcha, you've got to actually put the effort into Simcha. And then again, Shivas Yomim Tochel, in the very next posuk, v'hayita ach sameach, and you should be only happy. What does that mean? We've already been told, v'samachta b'chagecha, you've got to be happy on Yom Tov. And then Hashem says, and you should be only happy. Meaning, what not? Not sad. Of course you shouldn't be sad. We've said, v'samachta b'chagecha. What is added by v'hayita ach sameach? What does it tell us that we didn't know beforehand? So the Gemara learns from Vayita Ach Sameach, since it's an unnecessary statement, we don't need it. It comes to teach us that on the last day of Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret, you've also got to have Simcha. The Gemara works with it. But why the word Ach? Because we know in the Gemara many times, both in the Yerushalmi and the Bavli, we know that when it says Ach only, Rak or Ach, it comes to limit something. You should be this and not that. Vayita Ach Sameach means only Simcha, not something else. What is that not something else that is meant to apply? And to understand that, we need to understand the difference between two words for Simcha. The Vilna Gaon says there's no such thing as a synonym in Hebrew. Two words that mean the same thing don't really mean the same thing. They mean almost the same thing, but they're different. So, for example, in Megillas Esther, La Yudim Hayta Ora v'Simcha v'Sason v'Yekar. There was Simcha and Sasson. And you know the Gemara was Simcha and Sasson. But what does it mean? What is Simcha and what is Sasson? Why are they two different words? What do they mean? So the Vilna Gaon says Simcha is the feeling you have when you're going to find something. You're on your journey. You're going somewhere. You're setting out on your journey. Didn't you go on a cruise recently, Colin? Mm-hmm. So when you're on the way, that's Simcha. You get to the airport, you've got through security, you've got everything. You're on the way to the cruise. You're happy. You finished your work, you left your troubles behind, and you're going on holiday, you're going on vacation. That's Simcha. Sason hu achar kach k'sher kvar hachifetz biyado. Sason is the way you feel at the end of the cruise. When you've had a wonderful vacation, it turned out even better than you could have expected. That's Sason. That's a different kind of Simcha. Now, the Bnei Yisachar learns it the other way around. Interestingly, he holds that Sason is Mashe ha'adam mit'ales v'sas al davar ha'mekuveh b'yodo she'yavo lo eze Yeshua. When a person is looking forward to something that's going to happen, that's called Sason. Simcha is bahagia la'adam pu'ula ha'nirtzeit asher chashak ba. When that which you wanted actually takes place, that's the Simcha. You've achieved it, you've accomplished it. That then is Simcha. So let's look at Hoshana Rabba. Hoshana Rabba is an interesting moment because it's the moment between Sukkot and Shmini Atzeret. And what is Sukkot and what is Shmini Atzeret? Sukkot is a time of Simcha. And we see the word Simcha comes as Yom Simchatenu. The word Simcha comes over and over again because the Simcha of Sukkot is things have been completed. Firstly, financially, the crops are in. We've counted the money's in the bank, there's a winter ahead, the farmers are feeling very satisfied and very happy and very grateful. And also Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur have gone by. And we're sitting in the sukkah, and the weather is beautiful, which means Hashem is accepting us. He accepted our tshuva on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and the time in between, and He's invited us into His sukkah, into His home, and we're here sitting all together beautifully this evening. And it's just a beautiful time, and we celebrate what has been accomplished, how we've got to this particular point. So the focus of Sukkah is on the past, on what got us here. Come Shmini Atzeret, we start talking about Geshem. We're praying for Geshem. When is Geshem? That's still got to come. We're looking at the future. What's going to be? So the simcha of Shmini Atzeres is we trust the fact that there will be rain, there will be Geshem, and as you know, Geshem doesn't only mean rain, it means Gashmius, it means our material well-being will be taken care of during the coming months and during the coming year, and we feel grateful for that. So our gratitude on Shmini Atzeret is future-focused, and our gratitude on Sukkot is past-focused. And Shmini Atzeret is just that piece in the middle. And that's why when it comes to Sukkot, it's about Simcha. When it comes to Hoshana Rabba, we get more into the Sason and into Usha'avtem Mayim B'Sason. We say the whole idea of Mayim, of working on the idea of rain. That aspect of Sukkot, culminating on Shmini Atzeret, is all about future. It's all about what we're going to get in the future. And Hoshana Rabba is just in the middle. But this year particularly it's true, because this year we've got to have two feelings in our hearts and minds. The one is enormous gratitude for the Nisim, the miracles. And you might remember I spoke on the day after the first Iranian barrage of missiles. And I said to you, those of you who were in Shul, I think I spoke in Shul about it, that it's shocking how quickly a miracle becomes ordinary. The Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the Red Sea, wasn't a miracle anymore the day after. It's only a miracle when you understand the risks involved. Then it's a miracle. Then it's an ace. That Motzei Shabbos, that Saturday night, it was Shabbos HaGodel, wasn't it, just before Pesach? Yeah. That Shabbos HaGodel, that Saturday night, that's the moment you've got to remember. Not Sunday. Sunday was an ordinary Sunday in Israel, as if nothing had happened. But Saturday night wasn't an ordinary Saturday night. Motzei Shabbos wasn't an ordinary Motzei Shabbos. Motzei Shabbos, we were terrified. We were really scared. We didn't know what was coming. And then the Nisim and miracles, and nothing came. I mean, lots came, but it didn't affect us. And the next day, the miracle's over. It's no longer a miracle. We've got to be very careful. There's an avodah, there's a service in preserving miracle. And that's why we have a Pesach, because Hashem realized unless we celebrate Pesach every year, unless we sit in our sukkahs every year, they will no longer be miracles. They will become normal and natural. You've got to be able to preserve a miracle, and you preserve a miracle by remembering what it was like before. I ask you to remember what the fear of Hezbollah has been like for the last, I don't know how many years, certainly since we've come, so the last 5 years, but probably more. You know, how long have we been afraid of 150,000 missiles with accurate navigation aimed at Israel, and we're sitting under that. And that stopped us doing all sorts of things because we were afraid for what would happen. So we sat cowering in our land, terrified of these hooligans. Terrified, and we had to be terrified. 150,000 missiles. And we're now at war with them. And there have been losses, there's been tragedy. But 150,000 missiles, where are they? I'm told today 70% of them are no more. Nisim, miracles. They're not miracles now because we're sitting fine. We're sitting in our sukkah. Everything is just great. You'll only remember the miracle if you remember how we tzittered, how we were afraid. Then you'll understand what the miracle. And we have to preserve that. We have to keep that. So the simcha is to take joy and pleasure in all the unbelievable miracles. The small miracles that we ourselves experience. The small miracles that we hear about, you read about, somebody tells you. A soldier, a family of a soldier, they tell you the stories and you just hear the miracle after miracle after miracle. To have simcha for those miracles, that's what Sukkot is. Sukkot, I said on first night, Sukkot is to talk about the Nisim, to talk about the Niflaot, to talk about the wonders. That's what we're meant to be doing in our Sukkot. Now we're going into a different future. We've got a battle with Iran looming. And again, Iran is a serious foe. And we don't know what that's going to look like. It could be anything. It could be nothing, like Hezbollah was, kind of nothing compared to what it could have been. And there could be Nisim, and God forbid, it could be terrible tragedy with enormous loss. And it's right in front of us any day now. We know it's coming. But we've got to have sason for that. We've got to envision the Yeshua. We've got to envision what it's going to be like when it's all cleaned up, when it's all done. And we've got to be able to live with the simcha of what has been and with the sason of what will be. That's the avodah of Hoshana Rabba. Just as we move from simcha to sason, we're moving from what was to what will be. We're moving from the wealth of the last year to the rainfall of the coming year. We're moving from gratitude for what we've received to prayer and confidence and faith in what we're going to get. That's where Hoshana Rabba is. That's this moment, this precious moment of Hoshana Rabba that we're in at this very time. But then the Torah tells us, V'hayita ach sameach. This is this year. This year, Hoshana Rabba is complex. We've got to celebrate the nisim that have been, and we've got to have sason for what is around the corner. But next year, ach sameach, you will only have simcha. You won't have to worry about sason. You won't have to worry about what's around the corner, because everything will have been done already. It will all be in the rearview mirror. We'll be able to look back, and we'll be able to enjoy the peace and the prosperity that has been established through the nisim that took place in the past. It will be v'hayita ach sameach. You won't need sason in the future years. When it comes to the time, when we get closer to the time of Mashiach, it'll all be about simcha. It'll all be about celebrating what was. We won't have to feel worried and concerned about what will be. We will know that everything that will be a continuation of what was, and that Hashem will take care of us in that particular way. Our bracha to all of us is that we know there's still some hard times ahead of us. We don't lose the simcha in the worry about the future, that we don't allow ourselves to lose focus of the incredible joy that Hashem has been at our side and fighting with us and fighting for us and supporting us, and that we are aware that what's ahead is not something to be afraid of. What's ahead is something to have sason for, because we know it's going to end the same way as things are ending now. It's going to end in a way which reestablishes the supremacy of the Jewish people in the world, in the region, in a way that we can make the contribution that we were designed to make. We can make the difference in the world that we were intended to make, and then people will give us the respect and the kavod that the chosen people of Hashem are entitled to, and that we're able to move through this time from the past into the future, from simcha into sason, and ultimately to a situation of vayita ach sameach, where we'll only have simcha, and we won't need to have the sason. So thank you once again for joining us tonight. Thank you once again for your support and your participation in the Matmonim. I would appreciate if we just spent a few moments, say what the Matmonim has meant to them.
I'm used to speaking as I am. I would like to say a few words just to thank the Rabbi on behalf of everybody. I think it feels this kind of the same, and it's mainly a debt of gratitude. 1,000 shiurim at a minimum of 4 hours of preparation between 4 a.m. and then delivery till the end of 7 a.m. and editing and everything else. And I don't know what the Rabbi's hourly rate is on his business side. And then I suppose it's probably double pay at 4 in the morning. It can't be regular.
That's 2 or 3 hours the day before as well. It doesn't start at 4 in the morning.
I'm just giving the minimum calculation. But if you just try factor it in, and then it's like, 250 at the sea, and then times 50 by the 5 fingers in hand. And it's a lot of effort, huge amount of effort invested in us. I think that's why children are kind of a constant state of gratitude to their parents. They know how much their parents have invested in them. And Rabbi Lapin has invested in us in this year tremendously. So as a group, we've clubbed together to buy something. I was consulted as what might be appropriate, and I came up with the idea of whiskey as a possibility. There's a specific reason for that. The rabbis taught us that if you look at the world through the right prism, the world looks a lot better. So if you look at the world through the prism of Torah, it's not the same as when you don't. If you look through the world after having a couple of l'chaims, it does tend to also look a little bit better. We've chosen a Japanese whiskey specifically to signify the fact of taking the old and being able to be machadish into the new. What do the Japanese know about making whiskey? Well, it turns out actually you can take the old, you can keep authentic concepts, but you can refresh it. And we've gone with a slight coffee tinge. It's a Japanese whiskey with a coffee tinge, because this year is palatable to all. Everybody can. I mean, the levels of people learning this year are from Matmonim and Rosh Yeshiva, through to people who've never opened a book, through to people who aren't Jewish. So a nice cup of coffee, it's totally palatable to everybody. So that's a long introduction, really, just to say on behalf of everybody a massive thank you to Rabbi for everything that you've put into this. You just have to ask yourself, why do you deserve to have 70 years of experience, knowledge, and hard work given to you on a plate every morning? And then if you're me, you don't always make it every morning. It's not going to shaming and naming, but doesn't matter who in particular comes every morning. Not all of us make it, but the rabbi is there to teach us, and on behalf of everybody, we're very grateful. Thank you very much.